Well, it's official, ladies and gentlemen. It has happened. Doctor Who now has the lowest ratings of all time. The overnight viewership has reached just over 2 million people watching. Or 2 million people, well, 2 million households, anyway. 2 million TV sets, 2 million views. This is the lowest of all time. Last week's wasn't the lowest. It was close to the lowest. It was 2.6 for the first episode of Fruity Gatwa's new season. Then episode 2 reached 2.4 million. The lowest, so they lost 200,000 between episodes. Not a good sign anyway. And I did say it would be fascinating to see what happens this week, because that'll be telling. Because if you don't have recurring people week on week out, or they drop, then we know it's bad. And this is bad. It wasn't the lowest last week, because the lowest of all time was 2.2 million. And that was some time ago, especially when the population was much smaller than it is now. Now it's just over 2 million. The lowest of all time. The lowest of all time. And we have absolutely hilarious articles such as this. Doctor Who ratings revealed for Stephen Moffat's return boom. And cope. And it is absolute cope. Doctor Who's overnight ratings aren't the full story, but they still matter. What? No, they're not the full story, I guess, in terms of the fact that you've still got BBC iPlayer. But if you've lost, from its debut, 600,000, over 500,000 people, that matters a lot. A hell of a lot. Anyway. So let's take a look. Episode 1 was first released on BBC iPlayer at midnight. Oh, okay. What the fuck does that mean to do with anything? So the overnight ratings for Doctor Who's new episode Boom, penned by former showrunner Stephen Moffat, have been revealed. Boom had an overnight rating or audience of 2.04 million on BBC One in the UK, according to Barb. Of course, that figure isn't the full story, as it does not include those who watched on BBC iPlayer in the hours leading up to the episode airing on BBC One, which we will discuss when they release those figures. But those figures you can't independently verify anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Comparing like for like, they've lost 500,000 views. That's not good. They've cancelled people for less than this. Well, no, sorry. They've cancelled people for more views than this. This is atrocious. Like, actually atrocious. So they say this season is the first that sees Doctor Who episodes being released at midnight on BBC iPlayer, meaning Boom was available to watch for almost a full 19 hours before airing on BBC One at 10 to 7. What an odd time to have it. But I think that's interesting. I think that's a tactic. Well, it's not like I think. I would say that this is just the logical conclusion anyone would come to with any air of skepticism in their bones, and who isn't a complete naive moron. They've done this because they know that those figures can be anything they want to say. Because it can be literally anything that they want to say. First season to be released on BBC iPlayer? Why? Did they give a justification for that? No. Then it's worked out like that for a reason. And the reason is so they can fall back on the BBC iPlayer numbers as a means to hide the absolute tragedy that is now Doctor Who. And it is an absolute tragedy. What an absolute joke. So an updated figure including viewers who watched on BBC iPlayer will be released after 7 days. And that will be all of it. That will be all of it. That'll be every single episode, every single view, all in one go they'll release that. This is how they do it. I'm telling you how they do it. And it will be a big number relative, because it'll be all of the episodes, all of the views accumulated over those 7 days. And they'll tout it as a really good number. I bet you anything that they will. And it won't be a good number. If that number is, I don't know, any less than 15 million, that's being very kind. Each episode should get 5 million easily. Easily. Alright, that's like pathetic numbers for Doctor Who. But But if it's any less than that, I mean, my God, what a bad state we're in. Now it says this, on the same night, oh, here we go. Is this an excuse or not? Britain's Got Talent had an overnight audience of 4.10 million, with 1% Club receiving 3.58 million. Doctor Who was the most watched programme of the day for the BBC. I think that says more about the BBC than it does anything else. It says that people are not interested in watching the BBC anymore, which is, that's bad. That goes to show how bad that is. So the overnight ratings for Boom have taken a dip after the season's launch, which saw 2.6 million viewers tune in for episode 1, Space Babies, and 2.4 million for episode 2, The Devil's Cord. However, Moffat's return has proven popular among fans, which is true, but it doesn't matter if no one watched it. 2 million people watching is not, that's so bad. And the BBC will be like, this was our most watched, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but that's terrible. So anyway, they stood on a landmine, apparently. That was the episode. They stood on a landmine. And they're swapping out the companion as well. So this Ruby companion is going to be swapped out for this one. Like next season. But she'll be a different person or some shit, who knows. But anyway, let's take a look. Let's see what cope they have to say here. Doctor Who's overnight ratings aren't the full story, but they still matter. They're the worst in history. Of course they matter. As Fruity Gatwa and Millie Gibson began their first full season of Doctor Who, the show received close to its lowest overnight viewership ratings ever. No, it is the lowest. It actually is the lowest. The lowest previous to this was 2.2 million. Now we're at nearly 2 million. It is the lowest. What do you mean nearly the lowest? Unless there's a figure I don't know about, but I'm fairly certain the lowest is now this. So following the BBC's deal with Disney, it was previously announced that for the first time ever, new episodes will debut on BBC iPlayer at midnight to coincide with them dropping around the world on Disney+. And I can't wait to get those Nielsen figures for Disney in. It's going to show how bad this is doing. It's real bad. It was a controversial move to say the least, but hardly surprising in the streaming age. So for the first time, a huge proportion of fans would have stayed up until the early hours, I bet you they have not, to watch the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday encounter a baby farm run by babies, alright, before travelling back in time to the 60s to meet the Beatles and save humanity from Maestro. It says this, one thing that has also changed as a result of this is overnight ratings. Now, linear ratings have hardly been an accurate measure of success for a long time because fewer and fewer people watch TV live. You would think that's obvious, although has someone tried telling the various news outlets using the viewing figures for a cheap headline to trash the new season? Okay, but even if we compare like for like, they've lost over 500,000 viewers. That's trash worthy. There's no way you can spin that. Losing 500,000 viewers in the same format compared like for like as a metric, that's appalling. So of course the 2.6 million and 2.4 million overnight ratings will end up being just a fraction of the total audience. Ah yes, of course, yes. Those numbers we can't independently verify. Yes. Bullshit. But this is the cope that we get from these people. There are plenty of reasons for those ratings too. Some have said the good weather. Whatever. Bloody good weather. Meant people weren't inside watching Doctor Who live. Some have blamed the month of May for being TV's dead spot. But surely a new season of Doctor Who would make it not the dead spot. There are hundreds of reasons the ratings ended up as they are, some more impactful than others. 100 reasons of cope, yes. Huffing the copium, mate. But that doesn't mean these ratings don't matter. For one thing, it's pretty incredible that they weren't the lowest ever. They were. I'm fairly certain now this is the lowest ever. These 2 episodes have been available for almost 19 hours already. People still tuned in live, proving that even in the streaming age, demand is still there for event TV. You're fucking huffing that coat, mate. That's insane. And this figure's not right either. It says here, so the ratings for those who have watched on iPlayer won't be out for a few more days. They're unveiled 7 days after the broadcast, but I've no doubt they'll be big, especially if that 10 million figure for Fruity Gatwa's first episode Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road, is anything to go by. That's not 10 million for that singular episode. They revealed that wasn't the case. That was for a total sum for the entirety. It wasn't an overnight thing. It was for the entirety of the run, the 7 days, and it was also for some other bits and pieces as well that they'd shown, like for the whole season or something like that. Let's face it, ignoring the naysayers and trolls, Doctor Who is at a hugely exciting point in its history. Having turned 60, it's got a fresh new feel thanks to a significant increase in budget, a showrunner who doesn't just know the ropes but basically created them, and 2 powerhouses of acting in its lead roles. God, the cope of these people. Should we take those 2.6 and 2.4 million figures and declare them the be-all and end-all? Absolutely not. They should be taken with an absolutely gigantic handful of salt. Right, okay. 2 million people are still sitting down to watch it. It's a very, very good sign. No, it's not. How do you get that? You lose over 500,000 people and your go-to is, that's really good. You are retarded.